Why do parents turn against their own adopted kids? The day I met my adopted son Benji, he walked through my front door clutching a plastic bag with a rock inside. He held it up seriously and told her he's shy, but he already likes you. Benji named every single thing he owned. His backpack was Gerald, and his 2 shoes were Steve, since they were twins, and it felt wrong to separate them. When I asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he in hesitation appelled. He spoke like it was already a sure thing. As if a plane was just waiting for him to grow tall enough. He'd stand out in the yard with arms stretched wide, making loud airplane engine noises. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Gerald speaking. We'll be serving snacks shortly. Doctors told me could never have biological children, so I adopted Benji wholeheartedly. That's why I couldn't believe it and I was pregnant at 36. I took 3 separate tests to confirm. We were having a baby girl. Benji spotted the ultrasound photo stuck on the fridge before I even got a chance to tell him the news. That night he sat on the edge of his bed and whispered quietly, "Will you still be my mom?" I knelt down, cupped his face in both hands, and promised him nothing would ever change. The day Alia was born, Benji begged to hold her. I settled her carefully in his arms and he stared at her for ages. He whispered, "She looks like a tiny potato," then broke into a huge smile. Those first few years, he was the perfect older brother. He made her laugh constantly and shared all his favorite toys with her. For her 2nd birthday, he handmade a paper card there, "You're less potato now." Once Alia turned 4, everything shifted. One afternoon I was in the living room when I heard a lead crash. I rushed over to see a shattered vase on the floor. She looked me straight in the eye and pointed straight at Benji. He broke it. He was actually outside in the backyard, kicking exact moment. When I told Alia I knew she'd broken the vase, she just shrugged without an ounce of guilt or shame. I thought it was just a one-time childish mistake. But the next week, she lied to her teacher and I'd skip breakfast for her. She'd eaten 2 full stacks of pancakes that morning, yet the school still called me, worried about her well-being. Later, she told our neighbors Benji had hit her. She pulled up her sleeve to show a fake bruise she'd drawn on her arm with makeup. I showed the neighbors time-stamped photos proving Benji was with me when the supposed attack happened. But they still looked at me strangely. She was only 5 and I was already terrified of her lies. A child psychologist said she was just testing boundaries at 6 years old. By the time Benji turned 13, he'd completely stopped playroom every day. One night he came to me with shaky hands. Alia told her friend I hurt her cat, and I've never even seen that cat before. I was horrified, but before I could respond, Benji kept talking. She also said if I tell anyone about all her lies, she'll claim I hit her. She says everyone believes little girls over teen boys and they'll send me to jail. He was 13, nearly 6 feet tall, and his hands trembled to protect him no matter what. 2 months later, someone knocked at my front door. A woman with a clipboard and a uniformed officer stood outside. "Are you Benjamin Carter's legal guardian?" When I said yes, they sat me down and explained they'd received a report of inappropriate contact between my biological daughter. They said Alia had shown bruises matching her story. My stomach dropped completely. I called Benji right away to come downstairs, certain this was all a misunderstanding. He walked down confused, then froze when he saw the police officer. "Your sister says you touched her without permission." Benji stared at him utterly lost. "What? I would never do something like that." He glanced at me desperate and terrified. "I know you wouldn't, baby." I answered loud enough for them to hear, but they paid no attention to me. The social worker asked to speak with Alia privately. I watched her walk down the hall crying, her tears appearing totally genuine. The social worker led her into the living room and shut the door. I could hear Alia sobbing and the worker scrubbling. Notes later, they stepped back out. Alia still weeping. She pointed toward Benji's bedroom. The officer and social worker hurried inside, searching his room for an entire hour. They flipped his mattress, emptied every drawer onto the floor, evidence of anything suspicious. Even so, the social worker turned to me and said we were required to remove what their investigation went forward. "You found nothing." I shouted. "Her mom, his accusations are serious." Benji burst into tears, clinging tight to my arm. "Mom, please." I didn't do anything wrong. An officer pulled him away from me. He screamed my name the whole walk to the patrol car. "Mom, I didn't hurt her." He pressed his face against the car window. I still held the power to save him. The police vehicle pulled away, and I turned back inside. Aya sat calmly on the couch with a bag of chips on her lap, watching her tablet. She caught me staring at her, then simply lifted her head and smiled. I thought the case may had, but Alia stuck firmly to her false story the entire time. A 6-year-old girl's word outweighed my 13-year-old son's. Benji was sent to juvenile detention once the judge ruled. The day Child Protective Services took Alia away from me, she didn't cry, didn't ask any questions. She just grabbed her tablet and walked out the door. I never fully understood why she lied about everything. Her therapist told me there's no single clear cause, and warned she'll likely cycle in and out of jail her whole life. Last week I visited Benji, and he told me he'd given up his dream of being a pilot. They don't let people let me fly planes anymore.